Yeah, because Mike has so much to say. We don't. How many more days you got?
7 more days.
Oh, crap. I have water.
One meeting earlier.
June 12th. County Sheriff.
Already.
And we start off with county services.
Go ahead. Okay, thank you. Let's open county services at 6:01, and we have no action items this month. But we have Nicole Manchio and Maria Dorico from Human Services, or HR, or Human Resources, I'm sorry.
Did you get started back?
Next one.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. We're just going to give you a little bit of an overview of kind of what's been going on in our department over the course of the last 12 to 18 months. We don't often see you guys, so we thought it would be a nice idea to come in, just give you an update. So as you know, in September of 2020, HR and civil service combined departments. There was a lot of overlap. So we decided we could do this. We're a staff of 5, we're small, but we're mighty. And you'll see that there's quite a bit that our office does on an annual basis. So we are responsible for personnel, labor relations, benefits, and civil service for 588 active employees and approximately 520 retirees at the county level. On the personnel side, we do posting and advertising for vacancies within our county departments. Over the course of the last 12 months, we've had 39 postings per union contract, 102 free advertisings, and 4 paid advertisings. What I can tell you, and I'm sure you already know this, is there's a huge recruitment difficulty going on across New York State. We have a number of vacancies in all of our departments, and we are doing the best that we can to have some additional outreach. So some of the things that we're doing for outreach is we're going into the high schools and participating in career days. I can't tell you how many high school students have never even heard of civil service. They have no idea. They don't know what opportunities are available at the county level. They don't know what kind of education is required for some of them, or the fact that just a high school diploma is required for some of them. In addition to that, we've done 2 job fairs over at Columbia Greene, and those have actually been extremely successful. The last one we had 4 applicants apply right on the spot that day at the table. And we're going to continue to do that as much as they're scheduled. They notify us. We have staff members that we send over. We participate in the annual event for veterans that Michelle Dio has, that she did last year. She's organizing for this summer, and we are going to be available on that day as well. And in addition to that, we're going to be participating in the Greene County Youth Fair this year. So again, we are looking for all different kinds of out-of-the-box ways to reach people. In addition to that, once we actually hire people, we're responsible for all of the personnel changes. So new hires, changes in titles, whether it's from promotion, transfer, resignations, retirements, terminations, and deaths. So we did 80 new hires last year, 53 changes in titles, 51 resignations, 19 retirements, 5 terminations, and unfortunately we had to process 3 deaths. So part of trying to make sure that not only are we attracting people here, but that we're keeping them here. So we're looking at retention, and we're trying to increase employee morale. And one of the ideas that we had was our board downstairs on the 3rd floor. It's called Operation Affirmation. And every month, employees nominate other employees that they work with or that they've had interaction with, and they send an acknowledgement, and it goes up on the board. And then at the beginning of every month, an email goes out to all staff, letting them know who those were that were acknowledged during the month. It's been a huge success. During 2022, we had 147 acknowledgements for the entire year. We're only in June so far, but we've already had 105 this year. So the employees really like it, and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback on that. In addition to that, the HR team is part of the contract negotiations with our 7 unions. So over the course of the last 18 months, we've ratified a contract with AFSCME in October of 22. Corrections, we ratified in May of 23. Deputies, we ratified in February of 23. The nurses unit, known as UPSEU, was ratified in April of 23. We've been notified by CSEA for the 2 units that they have that they are ready to begin negotiations, and information was sent out to them on June 1st. So we're waiting to hear back from them about scheduling those negotiations. And we will also at some point before the end of the year be beginning negotiations with our Teamsters contract. So on top of that, with labor unions, we handle, along with the department that's involved, memorandum of agreements when issues arise before a contract is over. I myself am part of the grievance and discipline process. I am also the sexual harassment and discriminatory harassment compliance officer. So when a complaint is filed, I am part of the investigation, and I am actually the one who issues a determination. I also implement discipline if that's something that's necessary. In addition to that, I'm the Americans with Disabilities Act co-coordinator with the county attorney. So again, I usually receive the complaints. The county attorney's office conducts the investigation, and then together we come to a determination. And finally, one of my favorite parts of the job is our team organizes the Employee of the Year and the Chairman's Award, which is something that you guys will be privy to next Wednesday, not this coming one, the following one. We also are in charge of training. Our annual sexual harassment and discriminatory harassment and workplace violence training is assigned and kept track of through our office. And we also do any of the other required training that's department specific. They let us know what's needed. It's assigned. We keep track of it. It goes in everybody's personnel file. So that's my part on the HR end. I'm going to introduce Maria DeRico. She's going to talk to you a little bit about benefits. She's our employee benefits manager. When she's done, I'll come back and just give you a brief overview of civil service.
Thank you, everyone, and good evening. This is a wonderful opportunity to really be able to show everything that the Human Resources Department does. As Nicole mentioned, we are small, but we are mighty. So I just quickly wanted to just go over some numbers that are honestly remarkable for Greene County and our benefits, what we offer to employees, retirees, spouses, dependents. It truly is incredible. So our Empire Blue Cross Blue Shield plan, which is our active plan, employees and retirees, we have 421 enrollments. Adding to that, spouses and dependent children, we have another 416. So total, we have 837 just for our Empire Blue Cross Blue Shield plan active. Then when you talk about retirees, so these are folks who are 65 or older or potentially retired but disabled. That's another 383 individualized enrollments that we process. And that involves helping folks enroll with Medicare, which we're seeing over the years. Working with Social Security has been very difficult, especially with COVID. Unfortunately, they were not doing in-person visits. Everything was by phone. And folks of that group were being asked to go online and register themselves, and that's something that we've welcomed into our office, and it's been phenomenal. Our vision insurance plan. So vision is something that we not only offer to active employees, but for folks that are able to retire with health insurance benefits, they also get their vision. So total enrollments, we have 1,397 enrollments. Our MetLife Dental, we have a total of 845 enrollments. Our flex spending account, we have a total of 138 enrollments, and that's a phenomenal benefit that we offer to our employees because it helps with our deductible, co-insurance, office visit copays, any additional expenses that you can incur over and above what our health insurance covers. Life insurance, that's a benefit currently we have for managers. We have a total of 149 enrollments. And something even more phenomenal, January 1st of 21, that benefit was extended into retirement. So if you're a manager currently and you're retired, you're gonna have a set amount, it's $17,500 that you will get for an additional 10 years into your retirement, free of charge. So just quickly, super quickly, Nicole and I are so excited to announce that our lactation room is completely done, completely up and running. It is located in a private and separate room within the Human Resources and Civil Service Department. Complete privacy by means of a locked door, a privacy sign outside of the door when in use. There is a glider chair with ottoman and also a fridge for the storage of breast milk. We truly encourage all in this room to visit when you have a quick moment. The room is phenomenal and we have worked so hard to bring it where it's at, but we are so proud of this. So please, we welcome you to stop by when you have a quick moment. And super quick, just two last things that I have. We're planning October 20th this year to have an on-site employee benefits fair, which I believe is the first time in 3 years because of COVID that we are having an on-site benefit fair for all. So we are planning on making it big, big and welcoming. So I'm trying very, very hard to get the American Red Cross to be there as well the same day for a blood drive. And Nicole, I believe will speak on this as well, but we are working currently with updating forms and policies that we have in place to make them gender neutral for all. So that is everything I have so far, but thank you again for this opportunity.
So I'm just gonna pick up on the last.
Oh, I thought you said thank you. Oh, I'm sorry.
So I'm just going to pick up where Maria left off on the gender neutral forms. That's something that's going to need to be done countywide. There are not only state statutes that are requiring it, but there are groups that are actually going around looking to target specific organizations that are not doing this. And I don't want that to be us. So this is one of our ways of making sure that we are compliant and reducing the risk of lawsuit against the county. So our office has started that, and I have been encouraging department heads where they can to do that. In addition to that, the lactation room also is in conjunction with a June 7th effective date for New York state legislation that has expanded the rights of nursing mothers. So we were ahead of the game. I always like to be ahead of the game, but we finished just in time, and it really is a remarkable site. So stop down if you get a chance. Back to civil service. So in addition to the numbers that I gave you about the active and retirees that we handled through the HR system, on the civil service side, we are responsible for all civil service action for municipalities, school districts, libraries, and 2 special districts within Greene County. There are 1,175 employees that we are responsible for watching their civil service actions, in addition to those county employees that we talked about previously. What does that mean? So it means that for hiring in those appointing authorities, there could be exams that have to be administered. There's applications that have to be reviewed to make sure that they meet qualifications. And so in 2022, we ordered 67 exams. We administered 67 exams, resulting in canvassing and certification of eligible lists to be used by the appointing authorities. A lot of people don't realize that the positions in towns, villages, school districts, both of our special districts, which are the Catskill Housing Authority and Greene County Soil and Water, and all of the libraries within Greene County are covered by civil service. So it's a daunting task, but again, we're small and mighty. In addition to that, we are responsible for updating our rules and our rules appendices. And we've held 2 in 2023 already. We've held 2 public hearings to update the rules. One of them is to relax the residency requirement for veterans who have been discharged within 12 months and for active military. So if you're from out of state or out of the county, you move here, you can get a job with us immediately. And that was something that you guys had actually acted on back in 2021. Civil service rules are just catching up to that. In addition to that, I'm not sure how many of you are aware that the state has implemented what's called a HELP program. And this is to help us with recruitment. So there's certain titles that currently need to be tested for. And what we're going to do is we've submitted a resolution. It goes before the Civil Service, the New York State Civil Service Commission this coming Wednesday. And we're looking to make the following titles not testable for a period of 12 months. And that's going to be our social welfare examiners, our community services workers, our emergency operations dispatchers, our dispatcher trainees, and our mental health specialists. We are having extreme recruitment difficulty. And when I hold an exam, I get maybe 1 to 2 candidates. I just held an exam for our dispatchers. Between dispatcher and dispatcher trainee, I had 8 candidates. 4 of them failed. 2 of them are already provisionals. So you know how many candidates that leaves me with? 2 to fill 3 vacancies. So again, we're going to utilize every tool that we're given. This is a tool that the state gave to us. It goes before the state on Wednesday. I don't see them denying us because they're the ones who told us to use this. So hopefully this will go through, but that's another change to our rules and our appendices.
Who makes exams up?
The state, New York State Civil Service does. So when I order an exam, I send them the request for the exam and I have to send them the job description. And the job description is duties, minimum qualifications, knowledges, that kind of thing. They take that job description, they send it to their testing unit, and their testing unit creates an exam. And the exams are done in series. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the exact same title across the state, but it's kind of like social welfare examiner is given on the same day across New York State. And anything that would be a similar title.
So is it, think this through, whether it's a good idea to have someone who can't pass a civil service exam to do some of those.
It's not that they can't pass. The other problem with civil service exams is I have some exams that I have ordered for 3 years and they haven't done it. So here's my thing. If you have the opportunity to work in the private sector and I'm trying to lure you here, I'm going to say to you, here, I'm going to give you this job. But I can't guarantee you in 3 years when you take the test, if you don't pass it, you're going to keep your job. So that's what this is really for, is that kind of a thing. And I think, I'll be honest with you, they haven't said this to us yet, but I think this is a test pilot for a possible change to the way the civil service examination process works. Because they did it for a period of 12
Almost as bad
months.
as applying for a USDA grant.
There you go. But yeah, that's no lie. We have exams that we ordered 3 years ago that still haven't been held. And that's not fair to ask somebody to work in a position that they're not guaranteed to have for that long.
Are they dumbing down these exams?
They're not actually. I like I said, I just gave an exam for dispatcher and out of 8 candidates, 4 of them didn't pass.
Is it allowed where you could hand out, say, last year's civil service exams to high school graduates so they have an idea what they look like and
New York State,
study wise to understand?
so New York State Civil Service refuses to release any of their exam questions for their examinations. It's not like the regents, we can go online and look at our past regents.
Yeah.
New York State Civil Service won't do that. They
Too
do.
logical. Yeah, I mean, you think they would do that to help, right? In recruitment.
Just a study guide or something?
There are study guides, but not for every single exam. And when there are study guides available, we do make them available to the candidates.
And the problem with not doing it and releasing things like that ahead of time so people can look at it and gauge what the questions are looking for, is that inevitably municipal employee exams are geared toward a municipal entity. It's not geared toward a private entity. So somebody who's not in a municipal entity really doesn't have any experience in that. So I think it's a little bit.
Who lures away most of our employees who have passed the state exams?
So it depends on what department you're talking about. I can tell you that I have one department that we lose most of our employees to the private sector because we simply cannot compete with the pay rate that they're paying. And that's highway. I can't compete with what private sector is paying CDLs. No way. But I will tell you that I have other departments, and I tell me I'm wrong, Kyra. Social services and mental health, I lose a lot of the employees to the state level, believe it or not. We do the training for them and then they're gone.
And they thank me every month.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll ever get, I don't think you'll ever be able to combat that. It's just the way things are. It's we are at one level and then the state, it's, these people are climbing the financial ladder. It's, what are you gonna do? It's, it is what it is.
I agree, but it's my job to backfill all of that. So that's what I'm working on. I will tell you this, it's job security for me. I'm gonna have a job every day because it's not going away. But you're right. You're absolutely right. There's certain things that I can do. There is absolutely no way I'll ever be able to compete with the private sector for CDL drivers. We can't do it. And it wouldn't be responsible of us to do that for the taxpayer, to be perfectly honest.
Stand by, recession's coming.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right.
We'll compete very soon.
Yes.
Nicole, can I ask you about the test schedule? So you said like the dispatchers, there's 3 openings, but you only had 2. Can you repost that test or re-give that test?
So the state is the one who schedules the exams. The dispatcher exam only is held annually. It used to be held in January. It's now being held in February, but they will only hold that exam once a year.
So maybe is that something that we could send to the state saying we'd like that rule changed? You know, maybe offer these exams more than just once a year.
So one of the things the state has told me that they're doing, I haven't seen it yet, but they've told me that they're trying to move their model towards what we consider a continuous recruitment exam. So at any given time, I could say, I have this many candidates that want to test for this position, and I can let the state know I want to do that. Let's say I have all these candidates in March and I want to test for it in June. I can tell them that, they'll send me the material and I'll test for it then. But they're not at that model yet. They're telling me that they're looking at it, and I do have that for some. That's the way I test for our case managers. But they have a very limited number of titles that they will allow us to do that for. I am hoping that they will move to that kind of a model for all of them, to be perfectly honest. There's no reason not to.
I think we could, contact our state
I would
representative. and
love
put
any
something
support.
I think that certainly might be an answer to recruitment.
Absolutely. Any support you guys can give would be
I can
wonderful.
get results back a little quicker than 3 months or 6 months.
Right now, it's 4 to 6 months to get results.
Nicole, are you allowed to say, when you talk about your ones that failed, are you allowed to appoint them provisionally and hope they get the training and then it aids in them taking the civil service exam the following year?
So it depends. A lot of times we have provisionals who take an exam and they don't pass. Depending on how many people end up on the eligible list will depend on whether or not we can give them a second provisional appointment. So eligible lists have to have 3 or more candidates on them for them to be considered mandatory, meaning in order to fill that, you have to take from the list. If they don't have 3 people on it, let's say we only have 1 or 2 people on it, it's not mandatory. You can, but you're not required to. And in a case like that, we could appoint them to a second provisional appointment, hope they get a little more experience, hope we can prepare them a little bit better for the exam, and then the next time it's given, they can take it.
But what about ones that weren't currently employed? They take the exam, they fail, so you've not hired them yet. Are you allowed to then hire them as a provisional for the following year?
If there's not a mandatory list in place, yes, we can.
Is there a way that for those that pass the exam, it's allowable that there's a bonus for that? Financial bonus for
Passing the test?
passing the test and being hired. I don't know if it's, I'm just saying if you have to hire, if you need to fill positions and you potentially hire someone who failed the test, why should they be paid the same amount as the one who passed the test? I'm just saying it's like a.
So at the management level,
bonus.
that's a decision that would be made by the county administrator.
Oh, I didn't know if it was allowed at the county level or if that's all state regulated.
No. At the county level, that could be something that, again, for management. For unions, we would have to negotiate that. That would have to be something contained in the contract.
Are you aware of, I understand now some of the state agencies are not testing, they're doing more of a resume interview process?
So we just actually did that with our corrections officers. COs have been doing what's called a training and experience, which means they submit their application. We review it. We look to see if they meet the minimum qualifications. If they do, they're automatically assigned a 70. And any experience that would up that score, if there's anything that is related to the work, all it would do is increase that score. And it's called a training and experience exam. We do that with corrections officers. We do it with EMTs and paramedics. We do it with some of our attorney titles. That kind of thing. So we did just do it for corrections officers. The state's been doing it for about 4 years. We just piloted it. We were hoping it would help to increase our candidate count. I had 7 candidates sign up.
That's it.
Well, does anybody know?
Do you foresee?
Yeah, we blasted it, and so did the state. It was all.
See, I
over
just
the
heard
place.
about it last year, and you said it's been going 4 years, so obviously it's not blasted enough on the state side. But do you see any movement in the future for other titles?
We do, we've been pushing. So I have a group of peers where we have an organization, we go to a conference every year. Civil service comes to our conference. We talk to them about things that are not working well. And we have a list of titles that would be great to be done as a training and experience because there's so many specific things required. If you have all these licenses that are required and certifications that are required, the fact that you get all of that and then you have to sit for a written test
Right.
just doesn't really make sense.
So you're gonna have input
We're
with the
pushing.
state.
Yes, we're pushing.
Is there anything that we could do as a legislature to enhance that, help you?
Sure. We can-
Because to me, once this is learned, right, by everybody, if the state's moving in that direction, we may be able to solve this problem here by people not having to take the test if they're qualified to come into the job. And that would help you, obviously, in the future.
Absolutely. What I can tell you is every time the state pilots a program for state, usually what they pilot it for local municipalities about 4 years after it. So like I said, the state moved to training and experience exams for their corrections officers about 4 years ago. This year, they finally allowed us to start piloting it. So any other ones that they move to that, you can anticipate that 4 to 5 years, we'll see that at the local level as well.
Except in DC,
Except in DCJS.
Could be a step
That's
in the
just a
right
whole
direction.
nother entity.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So I just have 2 other really quick things. One of the other things that we're required to do is certification of payroll for our appointing authorities. So once a year, I have to receive a full certified payroll from all of our municipalities, school districts, libraries. It's set in civil service law and it's required. The municipalities and the school districts hate it. They hate it because we go through it with a fine tooth comb. We make sure that they're using the appropriate titles. We make sure that salaries haven't jumped or been cut or whatever the case may be. But it is required in civil service law. It's extremely time consuming. But it's something that we're required to do. So you may hear about that from some of your municipalities. It's out of our hands. We absolutely have to do it. The last thing that I wanted to talk about is a software program that you guys approved for us last summer. Thank you very much for this. When I first got here in 2016, all of our employment records, not just for county employees, but for all the appointing authorities, were on paper cards about this big. We were handwriting all of the information for every personnel change, every salary change, everything. We were handwriting it into these paper cards. And I had a heart attack because I thought to myself, what happens if we have a fire in this building? Our records are the official employment records for everything, for retirement purposes, for anything. And if we had a fire, all those records would be destroyed. So we moved everything over the course of 2 years. Everything is now on spreadsheets, but that's also a little cumbersome to deal with. So the software program that you guys approved for us is going to allow us to take all those records and really digitize them, including all of our exam records, our job descriptions, and eventually, I'm hoping within a year, we'll be able to start taking applications electronically. The biggest problem with that is making sure we can get the exam fees as well, but this is what we're moving towards. And Maria is actually spearheading that with one of my other staff members, Crystal, who's relatively new. If you haven't met her yet, stop down. She's wonderful. So we are working towards that goal. We are looking to be as paperless as possible, as soon as possible.
What are annual exam fees? How much?
So a non-uniform exam fee is $15. All of our law enforcement exam fees are $25.
So how much in a year do people hand over to Greene County to take exams?
So I believe in 2022, I have this in the annual report, but I believe in 2022, our exam fees were somewhere around 7,000, but keep in mind, last year we gave our deputy sheriff and police officer exams, which are our biggest exams that we give. We give them every other year. Now, we gave it in 2018, 2019, we had to skip a year because of COVID. So in 2019, we had 120 candidates who sat for the 2 exams combined. Last year, we had 45.
So do you see the exam fee as a deterrent to people taking the exam or no?
So this is a hot topic amongst my peers, and what we have discovered is when you eliminate the exam fees, your candidate count doesn't go up, your no-show count goes up. So people don't show up for an exam that they don't have to pay for.
Don't have any skin in the game.
Sure. Makes sense.
Yeah.
You ladies ever think like when they had the little towns and stuff in the county have a festival, maybe setting up a table there?
That's a great idea.
Instead of just a fair, at least that way you have a finger on the pulse of each municipality.
That is a great idea. Is there a way to get like is there anybody who has a calendar of when those kinds of things would? Okay, that's a great idea. Thank you.
You know, it's a Saturday and whatever, you could go set up a table with people and someone walking by might grab a pamphlet.
Absolutely.
Is it all still paper or you guys have a QR code where they can take a picture with their phone?
We're working on the QR code, but we do have templates, but yes, we are working on that. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Let me just tell you, I had a 7-minute time limit on this, but thank you for the time that you gave us. Appreciate it.
Very informative.
Half hour, you get 30 minutes.
Thank you.
Bad news this month, Sarah?
Nobody's asked me a question. I don't have any facts to share.
Does anybody have a question for Commissioner or DSS?
Has the state cut you a check and released any money yet?
No, we have not seen any money. We haven't seen any communication on the Medicaid side at all yet.
So it's still an uphill battle playing tug of war.
They will take our money at some point. They just haven't told us what.
That's it? That's it. Does anyone else have anything for county services this evening?
Motion to close.
Great service to Michelle. Thank you. I'm aboard of it.
Motion to close.
Who has a report for us next month, she promised.
I didn't promise, I said I should.
I
don't make promises.
Okay.
Well, we have the fishing derby.
Yeah, so
End of the month.
It's Saturday.
No, there's one at the end of the month,
Something different. Ours is the 28th.
the Wednesday morning
Wednesday, I believe. And it's at 10 a.m. That's.
for veterans.
So we got, yeah.
That's right.
Harry Ray Brooks' porch to bring in some veterans from the other long-term care patients down here and have a fun day. fishing and tourist stuff.
And if you plan on attending, please advise Michelle.
But there is one on Saturday too.
There is one Saturday at 9 a.m. That's the point for the youth.
Okay. Motion to adjourn. I had Lena in a second.
Yeah.
We're adjourned.
One size. You go to 28. Yeah.
About that.
I will.
Well, can I? First, last call for alcohol.
I'd like to call Public Works Committee to order at 6:34 p.m. Guess we'll start with the highway superintendent's report.
It's not my script bag, I got. Thanks, Greg, for letting me go first. I appreciate that. I'll try to go as quickly as possible. Kenner 83 culvert and pedestrian bridge project in the town of Hunter. Construction is scheduled to begin in early July. Our own crews have started to changing pipes and getting that road ready. Hopefully by the end of that project, we can pave the entire Kenner 83 from beginning to end. This is really going to depend on when that structure is going to be finished. It looks like September-ish. So it's going to be pushing it really for the end of paving season, but we're going to try to get that in at the end.
Scott, that's inclusive of a sidewalk?
It is not.
I thought you said sidewalk.
There's a pedestrian bridge attached to it that's going to link two sidewalks that are existing already. It's a bike path. So it's gonna link two which already exist. They're not installing any.
Right, we're not.
It's a pedestrian bridge that attaches two existing sidewalks. County Route 40 and 61 are moving along. We had the County Route 40 public meeting. It went well. We expect to get the County Route 61 public meeting shortly. Timberlake Road Bridge in the town of Lexington is scheduled to begin mid to late July. The reason why they're a little delayed on that is because of fabrication. We don't want to shut the bridge down and start construction, then have a lull in construction. So they're going to be starting a little later. Bloomer Road Bridge in the town of Hunter. That unfortunately, we had to close a little early because we received another red flag from the state of New York. That required us to close it earlier than expected. Construction for that is scheduled to begin mid to late July. We also encountered on our detour path a culvert in the village of Tannersville that was needs repairs. I spoke to New York State DOT. It looks like the repair of that structure, we can get it wrapped into this because it's part of our detour. It's currently on an 8-ton restricted load. That requires heavy loads to go an exceptional distance around this project. So we're going to try to work with our contractor to get that repaired, inclusive in this. And it sounds like DOT is willing to do that. County Route 2 culvert replacement in the town of Lexington. We should be starting that shortly, maybe in a week or two. County Route 1, 23C are both in design phases and should be constructed next year. Flat Clove Road in County Route 20, we've put on New Bridge New York funding. We still haven't heard any word of the funding results. I'm not sure what is occurring. I know that we've had multiple requests for information. We have not received anything. I will continue to reach out to New York State DOT to find out what the results are. I know that Culvert, New York is another one that some of the municipalities in Greene County have been requesting information, and we still haven't heard what the awards were. Finalizing paving program. You can see that we put up a resolution for paving for 2023. We just about have the same amount of miles as we did as last year, around 17 miles. That doesn't include any additional surface treatments that we're going to be doing, whether it's crack sealing or chip sealing or micro paving or. So we should be in the 20-mile, which is exceptional for us. Adding the additional pavement surfaces has been a game changer. For vehicles and equipment replacement, as you know, Harry Albright was requested to go and take a look and find some equipment. He actually found 2 tractors. They were new tractors, but the tractors that we were told were going to be 12 to 18 months out. He has actually found 2 of them. The problem is the mowing attachments on them are going to be 3 to 4 months out. So the tractors are available. We'd like to put those up for resolution. We didn't have it until this morning, the actual estimates.
That's better than 18 months.
What's that?
That's better than 18 months.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the tractors are available.
Yeah, so you get the tractors, 3 months later, you get the mowers.
So the mowers are the biggest issue right now. That's the problem. But he actually got 2 mowers available, and we can also get a loaner tractor to use in the meantime. Good. So
Excellent.
on the solid waste side, we have 2.
Scott, I'm sorry, but the discussion we had to bring Harry back this was specific to roadside mowing,
It was.
right? I thought it was used vehicles that he was gonna.
He did, he actually reached out to all his contacts, and there's no usable tractors. He could find tractors, but they wouldn't be anything that we would be.
So in order for you to get the order in then on the 2 new tractors, you need to cut a purchase order and get it approval by the board.
Correct.
So we can come back next Monday night with a special public works subcommittee meeting and get it approved. But then I don't want us to forget the longer range issue of our, not tractors for roadside mowing, but frontline vehicles that have much longer lead times that we need to get those things ordered.
Yeah, he's looking out for some mainline trucks, but he's even being told the same as what we are. I mean, they're 24 months out, 36 months out. It's just the manufacturers, when COVID hit and the supply chain dried up, everybody went after the used stuff, so that's not even available anymore.
So is that the total price, like the 2 new tractors and the loaner until we get the attachments for it?
And we can continue to use at least one of the ones that we're trading in.
Mhm.
It's still salvageable. The other one is pretty rough condition.
Staples down there.
Switching over to solid waste, you'll see on the agenda for resolutions for compost machines. There are 2 machines. We got a 75% grant from DEC. So majority is going to be paid for DEC, and those 2 machines are going to be located, one in Hunter and one in Coxsackie. We also have on the agenda the residential drop-off area. As you know, if you've ever visited a Casco transfer station, the residential drop-off area is a mess. It's a madhouse. It's too small. It's been too small for a very long time. With the additional public going to the residential drop-off area, it is a safety and liability issue that we have. There's no real discernible path for travel. It's haphazard. It needs to be redone. So this would start the redesign process.
The composting machines are smaller, equal that we have now,
Slightly
One size
smaller.
a size smaller, okay?
Are people taking the compost?
Yeah, they are. It's been
Out.
You're out?
You're out now?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's been successful.
Yeah.
And I think that we've had a lot of requests to get on the mountaintop to get a machine up there. So I think this will give them an availability of.
Why are we going small?
Well, the Casco transfer station has gotten, I mean, I don't think we're gonna have anywhere near.
Space-wide.
It's just, I don't think it's necessary.
So it's, instead of 1,000 pounds a day, these machines will do 500 pounds.
If we're out now.
No, we're out of finished product. Right.
Well, it's only because
we don't have any
bringing
more,
enough in.
not enough to keep it.
Supplies up there.
Well, I mean, the supply for the compost is a little higher than the supply for bringing the material in.
Right.
It's growing season, right? Everybody wants it now.
Yeah. Let's take it.
How much did you distribute? Do you have any kind of count of how much?
A little over 2,500 pounds.
I mean, remember, it reduces 90%.
Right. That's,
So we last year we took in about 12,000 pounds of raw material. In the 6 months that we've been in operation.
And reduce it to 2,500 pounds.
Yep.
do the 2 locations require an electrical?
Yes.
Yes.
And I believe that's
in the
included.
resolution.
Yes. Yes. On the upside, we did receive the excavator for Casco Transfer Station. And we should be receiving the box truck shortly. It's at the upfitter, so the upfitter has received it, so maybe a month we'll receive that box truck as well.
Who did you end up going with for the box truck?
International.
So Legion across the river?
Yes.
And HHW Day is June 24th from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's always a pretty successful operation and day. Hopefully it's the same this year.
Next year, we're looking at 2, right?
We'll see. I'm learning well.
Budget season is right around the corner, so we can.
I just, on behalf of the village of Tannersville, I'd like to say thank you for all the work you did with the
Scott's been doing a lot of work with us on, with the culvert and the detour, and it's been a thankless forever job.
It has been, it's,
Just want to say thank you.
Still think.
absolutely. It is. It was tough. I mean, as soon as we set up the detour, we found that the structure on the detour was deficient and needed to be repaired. So we already had a red flag on the structure, so we had to shut ours down. So
And Scott can say the same thing out on 51 and 26 intersection. We had some cooling of the water there, and we kind of looked at it. And one of the neighbors had told us what way the water should be going. We looked at it, and he went, boy, I don't think so. He went out in the tractor and he shot everything. And come to find out, the old farmers know what they're talking about. And so we're kind of moving in the direction of water a little bit, cleaning up some messes up there. So that's
it is, it's
awesome.
Thank you.
Tonnage on solid waste slowing down,
A little bit.
sign of the economy.
Yes.
Less C and D.
I want to say less C&D, I'd say it's a little less garbage. C&D is staying steady.
They're going down everywhere or just in certain locations?
Overall, everywhere.
So I was down in Clinton Corners in my big truck and I followed a roll off. Liberty or Liberta, all the way from south of Rhinebeck, all the way up 9 and made the right here across the bridge on 385.
It's funny you said it. I was just gonna say the same thing, Mike, when we did these, we did a site inspection on this redrafting of the drop-off center. When I left Casco to come back in the office, there were 2 Packers, got down to the light, turned left over the bridge to go back home.
Yeah.
And that's after we raised our rates.
Yeah, we're at 100, 125 now.
If they're driving that far,
That's what I'm just, you know, it's, to me, I'm like, that's, there and back is $50 in fuel.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, MSW is 125 a ton. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
I think certainly during the budget cycle, we should get those rates again and evaluate where we are, you know, with, you know, the
Surrounding areas.
We're not very far off from Ulster. We're only maybe $7, $8 cheaper.
Are we faster?
Probably.
Faster. That makes a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're not tied up in a line for an hour.
Right, sure it does.
It's not much of a difference that since we raised it up to the 125. We're pretty close to what everybody else is.
Okay.
Is there any way you can still, like we talked about before, like non-resident companies coming in to change the rate? I don't know if it's like a sticker or if you're a Greene County resident, it's this, and if not, I mean,
I'm
can
not
you?
sure you get into flow control then.
Yeah.
That's a
It's
whole.
tough to figure out. I mean, there's companies that are in Columbia County that deliver boxes into Greene County, right?
Yeah, you're
So it's kinda
venturing
hard
into
to-
flow control at that point.
Yeah. What about north of Cooksaki with the new facility in Cooksaki? Have you seen garbage coming south further from, like, say, Ravina or something?
I don't, yeah.
Seen that any kind of increase like what was happening in Hunter?
No, we definitely didn't see the massive influx that we saw in Hunter in Osaka. I think there was a multiple combinations of what happened in Hunter. Greendale closed up on the mountaintop for C&D. You had COVID with a massive,
Yeah.
obviously, the mountaintop has exponentially amount more non-residents coming. So during COVID, there was an influx.
Right.
So I think I don't think you saw that in Coxsackie.
Sorry, Greg. Greg, you got anything for us?
Oh, sure.
Sandy Road, just quickly, the fire downstairs, we're about 80% completed. He's just got a couple hallways to finish painting and then carpet. We got most of the furniture in already and assembled. Gonna wait for the carpet to go down. And then we'll be set, hopefully, by the end of this month, we'll be 100%. EOC, I don't know if I mentioned that last week. EOC's roof is completed, 100%, so that's all done. We're working on highways, Scott's building over there. That'll be done in 2 weeks. That roof will be completed.
Is that just tarred?
The back will be new and then sealed.
Sealed.
Yep. He's gonna redo all the seams first and then seal. Other than that, just a steady. Last week, I met with Mike and Jay at the mental health building, which is everyone's favorite topic, I know. Can you pull that up? I'll throw you a couple pictures. We were discussing, what we met about was to discuss if it was worth doing any kind of renovations versus building a new building. Well, we spent quite a bit of time, almost 3 hours, I think, over there, going through everything from the basement to the attic, inside and out. As you can see from some of the pictures, the top of the building, the roof, the slate is becoming a huge safety issue. We have to replace all that sooner than later. The bell tower needs to be replaced. All the windows are broken. The heat just blows right out the roof, which, as you all know, by the heating cost. It would need a new roof on the front portion of the building. All the overhangs, fascia, probably 80% are rotten. They need painting, replacing and painted or covered with metal. All the gutters are leaking, which you can see as we go down, causing this kind of damage. We have to do a lot of, there's a fair amount of spots where you need to replace and repoint the brick.
Yeah, a lot of that's not point.
Yeah, no, you have to replace it. Yep. Absolutely. The front porch, where the slate has come off the top of the roof, has put holes in the front porch, which has caused leaks underneath. All that has to be replaced. It's starting to rot out the actual flooring of the porch, the stairs. It needs more than just a little paint. It would really need to be replaced. The fire extinguishers are not, sorry, fire escapes. The one in the rear of the building, those steel poles are just hanging and swinging in the breeze. They are not attached to anything. We'd have to pour some concrete pads, and there is not much left of that steel. If there was a fire, I wouldn't want to even go out there. My chances going a different way. But it's just from age. Nothing other than that. But if we were to decide to renovate, you're looking at replacing every window in that building. You're going to do upgrades on electric, water, waste piping. IT, I talked to Greg, what he would need to do. You're going to run all new captive wires. They have an issue with the phone system. We would need to put an elevator in if we were to keep it. So you're looking at a fair amount of work if you want to keep it. If we don't have a location for a new building, it might be an option. Just throwing some quick numbers, going through everything. I'd say 8 to 10 million to get it built, but you still have a very old building. But if we don't have a place for a new one, I won't be able to guess what a new one is right now. I know other people probably would. Building the Justice Center over there, we probably have an idea of what a square footage is. But I just wanted to bring it to you guys to show you what kind of work really needs to be done. There is some work that needs to be done, whether we renovate or not.
How old is the building? 100 and
110.
110 years old.
Was a main, well, one building,
1887 or something?
Yeah, something like that,
there's
89.
two buildings there.
Yeah, the newer one was
30s?
1930s.
Yep.
1887.
Is there any historical preservation money that could be used for that type of project?
We can check. I think the
Because
risk
if
you
we're
run there,
claiming that
the
it's
risk you
just-
run there is declaration of, you know, historical significance.
But I mean, people are already saying it's of historical value, without us even doing any of
Well, it's
Well,
old.
I'm saying it can,
Well,
one thing, but it
that.
doesn't.
Yeah, but that's the argument. That's what we're hearing.
I don't think it's as significant as the carriage house.
So, to Craig's point, I mean, the
Not for
pictures
me
you
to
see, and this is no bearing on Craig, who's been here not even a year now. I mean, can't fall into allowing buildings to go into disrepair, thinking, well, we're building something new.
It's not all steel, it's lack of maintenance.
It's, I mean, that slate in the front, which is allowing the water get down on that porch, it's exasperating all the deficiencies of the building. And I just don't see us close to a location at all for a building. Maybe something will happen, but I talked with Sean, I said, Craig, maybe it's worth it looking at some engineer that could potentially look at this thing and give us a ballpark number on something like this.
Or take it
Well,
down.
there are other options, correct?
And what do you do with your employees while they're doing this?
Those are all factors you gotta think of.
Yeah,
Yeah, what?
yeah, and there's two buildings. Could you do
Yeah.
one building at a time? Could
I
you
don't,
bring in
Some
remote,
trailers.
like schools bring in remote trailers for
right,
They've done
those
that.
types of things? I think if we're gonna evaluate, it can't be a back of a napkin evaluation. You really gotta do an autopsy.
So what's the price point where we stop?
I don't know.
Well, I think you compare whatever this estimate winds up being and compare it with, average square footage for Class A office space.
Right.
Because that is a fairly common thing that we can nail.
But do we even know the requirements of what mental health requires for what services that they provide? So let's just say, I don't know how many square foot this building is.
20,000.
Suppose they only needed 15.
Yeah, but there's other agencies.
That would be an evaluation that we would have to do, even if we're gonna rehab this, is to understand how to do the internal rehab for office configuration, conference rooms, clinical rooms, drug storage. We'd have to do a spatial evaluation that you could use even if you were gonna make the ultimate decision to move someplace else. With remote sessions as well, you may have a reduction in space. Whether or not a remote clinical person would never be in the office, I'm not sure that would work. So you might have to have a couple of generic offices that are not assigned to somebody, but somebody comes in on Monday, somebody else comes in on Tuesday. We have staff meetings, et cetera. So you that 20,000 feet, I also think is old style. This building was not designed to be a mental health building, so we converted it. So it might even be too big to begin with because it's just not sized properly. You wouldn't be able to understand that until you really do a spatial evaluation of what the needs are for a modern office for a mental office.
So you're saying we had to spend the 100,000 anyway?
I think if you're gonna do a true evaluation, but the term I just used, back of a napkin, I just can't say, well, cost per square foot is $387 dollars a square foot times 18.5 and get a number, because if the ultimate comparison is a greenfield, part of my expense with greenfield probably is gonna be utility, unless I gotta find something that's, in the middle of town, which there isn't. So the comparison, you gotta be careful, because bricks and mortar may be close rehab versus new, but when you factor in utilities, but can you convert that? I wouldn't want to convert that thinking it was gonna be a 5 to 10 year lifespan. I want to be able to say, we can get 25 years out of a rehab building. Otherwise, I'd recommend building new and getting a 50-year building. There's a lot of evaluation that has to take place, and I wouldn't want to do that too quickly without truly understanding, look, that's 100 and whatever years old. Those are wood trusses in that attic and wood beams, and after a while, is that salvageable? Because you're not gonna dismantle and rehab it, so. And I think that the historicalness of the building is gonna have to be evaluated as well. Just because it's old, in my opinion, does not make it historical, but it was the history of it being the former county poor farm, the cemetery in the back, et cetera, but it's still in a floodplain too. So that the hayback systems really need to be elevated to get out of the floodplain if we're gonna stay there. The parking lots are shot. That barn there is, I think, it's full of junk.
How much of the building's being utilized right now?
All of it, all of it,
All of it?
every square foot.
Even that upstairs apartment where Slate is?
Yes,
Well, that was
No.
separate off. That was.
it's 2 floors.
And there's no elevator to it. That's the other thing, you're gonna have to bring this to modern building code standards, ADA. But so the building has, you know, a center point where you could put an elevator then that would serve both buildings. You can get an elevator, but, you know, everything has a cost. But I think you truly have to get some experts, structural engineers, hayback people, plumbing, electrical, because you have to gut really. And you have asbestos and lead, you know, all that paint in there, all the old molding, the shoe molding, whatever, they're all gonna have lead paint with it. So it's gonna be a unique rehab. You can rehab it, absolutely. Can you get a 25-year life out of it?
In the new building, you're gonna get a 50-year life,
50-year life,
right?
right.
So I'm troubled by spending, I understand what you're saying, but I'm troubled by spending $100,000 plus for an estimate or something that we really don't, the majority of us probably don't want to do. And I'm troubled about the liability. There's major liability there right now. I can't see us spending $100,000 taxpayers' money to get an evaluation, what that would cost us to rehab. And we're gonna be very, very, what he's saying, 8 to 10 million, where you go out and build a new building for the Slate there or more and guarantee yourself at least 50 years. I got a problem with it.
Where are we gonna put it?
We gotta find a spot.
I gotta find this.
Yeah, we gotta find a
What
spot.
I have, Harry, with that is I'll go back to when we started working on the jail. We had how many people come in here and tell us that building could be rehabbed, we could do this, that, and the other thing. We were only gonna have 10 inmates. We spent 3 years kicking things back and forth. Never went out and got a estimate to tell us how much it was gonna be to rehab that building. Given the fact that we all knew what it was gonna cost to renovate it, we didn't have a number that says, here's what it would be to renovate this building. I would like to avoid another 3-year impasse, because that building, we need to be either replacing what's there or building a new one, we need to move on it.
Yeah, we need to move fast.
Even if we're moving out, we got a lot of work to do just to.
So one way or the other, we need to move.
I understand what you're saying. I'm not arguing that point. The point I'm arguing is I find it hard to justify spending $100,000 of something that evaluate what this is gonna cost us to remodel, rehab, where the majority of us probably don't wanna do that. That's my issue.
I'm not sure anybody wants to do it.
Yeah, but
Well, 100,000 to buy a piece of property somewhere.
Yeah.
There's property somewhere that we could put this. You can't say there's absolutely nowhere in Greene County for this.
Well, I'm going back to exit 21. We were gonna put the mental health building down there anyway. So why don't we do that? You can still have retail space, put the mental health building way in the back. We get the property from the IDA.
That's 800,000.
Yeah, just saying.
It's not even a
That's some
definite,
other property. Then we bring them up and we need to.
it's not even a definite of 100, it could be 70,000.
No, we have property somewhere.
could be, but hundreds being thrown around.
But I'm just saying, even if you get it and if it's doable where we could use it for something else and move them someplace else.
Well, what says that cost to rehab doesn't come in at 3 million?
Right, there's nothing saying that.
I don't know. I have no idea what it's gonna cost.
That elevator alone is gonna cost you, I wouldn't even wanna put a figure on.
The other problem we have, and I'm trying to get clarification from the state, is, there's a natural gas ban that's gonna go into effect at 12/31/25. I couldn't have a building ready by probably 12/31/25. is that still eligible for gas? Because we started the project before the 12/31 mandate. I'm trying to get that clarified today. Because right now, in theory, even if the gas line was in front of your property, pre-12/31/25, you won't be able to hook into it. According to the existing governor's ruling and how that state matches. So that whole determination, am I gonna design an electric building or am I gonna design a natural gas building or an oil building or a propane building or
Wood stove.
I think we could probably put something together in 90 to 120 days to give us some clarity as to whatever the number is for the existing facility. And I think it'll be much easier to get a comparative with a greenfield.
Here's a hypothetical. Say it comes in lower than what we're saying, we're throwing a dart at 8 to 10 million with an evaluation. We have over at the college for historic buildings and restoring stuff. I mean, you'd have to contract out, but there might be things that the college for a program that we push to get could piggyback off to do some of the on-the-job stuff and get life experience right here in between the two counties.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
You got a class of 20 kids. I don't know if that's gonna be mass production.
No, I'm saying anything like to do shutters, do a bell tower. I mean, there's things that could be done.
You can define a smaller scope.
Exactly, and I'm not talking about 20 students coming in and,
You're not gonna save $1 million that way.
no, but if we can help kids in the community or people that are in that program in our own university.
I just think you're throwing good money at a bad, that thing was never kept up. It's got too many problems. I mean, I would be against the 100,000. I'd rather see it go to property that we can actually build new for these folks.
Show me the property.
Showing you the
We've been
property.
showing the property for
I'm showing you the
5, 6
property.
years.
And I think the employees, I know when Patty and I met with them, they were happy in that building and that location.
Are you
because of
kidding
the park. No, I'm not
I'm
kidding.
just telling you, Jason
met-
said the
I
same
met
thing
with
to
those
me,
employees.
Jay, and Greg was happy. They said the same thing. I didn't know what to tell you. That's what they said.
Yeah, it's a very
Beautiful park.
It's a park-like
They like
setting,
the park.
you know, from a clinical standpoint. It's not hubbub, it's not Main Street,
Well-
we're not fighting for parking. It's an
Well, we'll
easy,
see what we get for blowback, because I'm telling you, the phone rang off the hook when it was discussed at a town board meeting. So I'd say I'm just one vote, you know, I'd rather see it go down to extra 21.
What about the car dealership? What's the status on that?
I was given a resounding no on that, but
I just need to put something like that right on the corner like that.
Thought that was sold.
it is, we were talking to the owner. He, at that time, he had not begun to market it. Since I got responses back, I told him we're out.
Storage units are,
Yeah, storage units are better.
we're dealing it there.
21 West is not dead, it's just we need to clarify with the IDA what we would be responsible for, what they would be responsible for. The gas line has to be.
Can't you
We
build
have to
in,
make that decision on the gas line too, because the prospects of the new hotel on 21 East wants gas.
my understanding is on 21 West, that's what we're talking about, the valuable properties up front on the road,
Absolutely.
correct?
And IDA does not.
What's there, 3 or 4 lots there, you know, for retail or?
Depending on what you're gonna build, there's 2, unless you're building fairly small.
Okay, so there's the value right there.
Yeah.
You got that property runs long all the way to the back.
Correct.
That's where we should be looking, in the back of that property.
And nothing from the hospital about that.
Nothing.
property.
I have to presume at this point, they're trying to reconfigure their branch and move it.
They're not
I think they're financially not stable.
They're, yeah, CMA.
Is there any more room on that
Financial.
Yeah, there is to the
county
back.
property?
Huh?
So what do we need to do to get
County
the gas line to go to
Our
both
county
sides? Are
It's
we?
a little over 2 million.
That's 2.1, I think, the last time we.
So you're saying the hotel is requesting that
But
gas?
that's on
Yeah.
this side of the.
Yeah,
throughway.
right, and it's, you wouldn't, I think the expensive part of 2.1 is going underneath the four.
Right.
That's,
I wouldn't do
but
it.
when you, if you, so the existing gas line, which the idea has already spent a large sum of money to expand to a 10-inch line, ends now, but basically what is the burned out transmission shaft at Jefferson Heights.
Mhm.
I don't have an exact number to go from there to 21 East. But you have that corridor there, there's property in front of Home Depot,
Mhm.
and then across from Marshall Sterling up to the throughway ramp are two pieces of property that could be developed, and maybe gas would help develop that. I could try to get Central Hudson to give me a ballpark as to if we just ended at 21 East, what would it cost?
What about any of that property for a community services building?
I think that's,
Especially if there's gonna be natural gas there.
well, that,
Yeah.
if you can envision it, it's kind of little peaks on either
Right.
side, and it's all rock. I think it would be expensive development wise. That might be more prone to retail development because of the rate of return on investment.
Johnny Mullen would be doing the actual work,
Yeah, CMH doesn't do it, they
contract with Johnny.
But 21 West in the back, what IDA has done further research with Carver is doing.
Big,
They think they can put the mental health building and a veterans and a record management section down on the backside and still leave the prime real estate along 23 for development. IDA is very concerned about losing possible sales tax generation or property tax generation by the sale of those two front properties. If we were to take it over, they think they're gonna lose. And by extension, the county would lose a lot over time if that goes to retail versus governmental.
Well, we don't lose anything if we're paying them what they have into it.
Well, no, but they're looking at future growth. They're looking at, a retail operation to pay sales tax for the next 50 years on those pieces of property, as well as property tax and whatever jobs are generated. But 21 West, the backside still could be developed. What I've asked, IDA is going to come in July to us and talk about shared development costs of 21 West. In the meantime, maybe Warren and I can work with CH, I'm sorry, about the gas line just to 21 East. Because I'd have to think, we are so far behind the 8 ball with the ban on future gas that 21 West probably couldn't get gas to it unless the gas line could be installed with the understanding that we can then tap into an existing line versus new lines after 25. That's the clarification I'm trying to get from DEC now, because it takes 24 months, 30 months to construct something.
On that natural,
We're done today.
Do you think we can get Assemblyman Tague to check into that for us?
Does he have clout?
I mean, I think DEC, yeah, but I think he oversees DEC or does something with
He
DEC.
may oversee it.
I think he serves on that committee or. Pretty sure.
Was it an actual law passed
Yeah,
on the natural gas?
On natural gas,
Yeah.
yes.
On the leadership and protection.
Could be because of oil burner industry.
Shields.
But, as I said to NISAC today, is that if you're already under construction, I mean, their permits would already have been issued by the state. We go to the state for our permits. You couldn't tell me I'm gonna design a building, begin construction, and then halfway through, make it all electric. So the application almost would have to give you a waiver or a grandfathering in of the ability to then tap into the line that you spent the last 24 months building.
Or you can replace one that's already there.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of balls in the air right now. But we need to make some decisions in order for me to knock some of those balls out of the ballpark. And I think, 90 days, 120 days it may not be a killer for us. I'm trying to get a thorough and as accurate as possible on the rehab. And if the numbers come back, just too bad, or the time extension isn't worth the investment, then maybe that's enough for us to say we did our due diligence. We looked at it, we looked at it honestly, and now we're gonna go do greenfield.
In the meantime, we should obviously keep taking a look at 21 West,
Well, I think one of
what
the
our
first things-
possibilities are.
So I think the spatial evaluation, like, no matter where we go, I gotta have a spatial evaluation before I even design bricks and mortar. What does mental health need to operate in terms of what type of square footage, how many of them? No matter where you go, to rehab or to build new, I'm gonna need that base information.
And what else are we putting in there with it?
Well, yeah, we definitely, if we're staying where we are, water is there, you got, down at the veterans, program there as well. Although the veterans program really was a default, it's too small for them to do anything programmatic.
What if you read just a hypothetical, say you redid the building, how hard is it to do that barn over and you could put a veterans office in there? Soil and water, I mean, how much room do they?
The flood, you got a floodplain there, that barn gets flooded.
You could do a shop in the barn. Yeah, I don't think you're gonna put an office. Not gonna spend
But
a lot of it.
you can't put money in that barn, it's a flood, I mean, it gets flooded all the
It's in
time.
a floodplain. The whole property's in
I
a flood.
mean, God,
Have to raise it.
the water goes down in the basement of that building. We had 7 foot of water there in Irene. Yeah, I seen it personally, went down with the chairman.
But then you still can't dredge and dig out streams like you did 30 years ago either. So your streams that used to hold 1 million gallons are only holding 500,000.
No, I agree.
Well, that's climate change.
It's not rocket science.
Well, thank you, Craig. It's a fine mess.
Another fine mess you guys did too.
Thank you, Greg.
Sorry, Craig.
Just so you know, just to get that building up to safety and the liability issues we have there is gonna be
Yeah.
300,000 right there.
I know,
And we have to do that.
You have to do that.
you gotta do that. And we're on time bond, we're sitting on a time bond there,
Should have been done.
with liability. I mean, come on.
But again,
I've
those
been here-
things, those time bombs like Craig is talking about is because for the last 10, 12 years or since Irene, where everyone's been saying we're getting out of there.
Right. I've
We're
been here,
still there.
I've been here 13 years, and we've been
So-
talking about getting out of a mental health building for 13 years.
Yeah, so.
There's
that's
always
just
been
the
this
reality.
prevention to stop investing in the building you're gonna get.
I don't see any change for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Serious case of being able to maintain.
Well, something else, Michael.
All right, Chairman, please.
Proposed action items. Accepting formal proposal for repairs of granite curbing for the county Route 83 bridge over to the Scary Creek, bin 33030052, town of Hunter. Mr. Legg, Bueller second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Number 2, authorizing county highway and solid waste superintendent to bid for number 2 fuel and gasoline.
Martinez.
Martinez and Leonard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Number 3, authorizing the implementation and funding of the cost of 100% of the costs of a transportation project which may be eligible for federal aid and or state aid or reimbursement from Bridge New York funds. Hobart. Second. Hobart and Martinez.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Number 4, reassigning jurisdictional control over the Milton McGlashan Bridge, bin 2-26928-0, and Leon McGlashan Bridge, bin 2-26929-0, Town of Wyndham. I'll move that.
Second.
Second by Legg, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Awarding quick quotes for paving contracts under the New York State contract.
Leonard.
Leonard and Martinez, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Accepting proposal for engineering services necessary for new residential drop-off infrastructure at Catskill Transfer Station.
Rivera.
Rivera and Buelich, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Authorizing the purchase of 2 new composting machines for the Catskill and Hunter Transfer Station and budget amendment.
Kawasaki.
Kawasaki.
Hobart. Hobart.
Legg and Hobart, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Number 8, budget amendment, Greene County Highway Consolidated Local Street and Highway Improvement Program.
Rivera?
Lennon.
Rivera and Leonard, all in favor? Opposed? So carried. Budget amendment, insurance recovery, Greene County Highway.
Martinez.
Martinez, one second. All in favor? Opposed? So carried. Anything else?
I do have a request for exec session. I'll make a motion to wait for executive session. All in favor? Anybody opposed?